The S&P 500, the Nasdaq 100. We have quite a bit to discuss on the day because we have some breaking news that came out today and that has been developing throughout the day, which could really turn up the pressure, if you will. Now, before we jump into all of that, I want to talk about a few things. I really wanted to bring out the belt today. I wanted to really get excited about where we're at. But I believe today and going into tomorrow morning is going to be the deciding factor on can this really continue. And I'm not going to waste any time. I'm not going to, hee-haw around here, right? I'm going to jump right into it. Because tomorrow we have PCE data. Now, what has the Fed been telling us? If we look right now, the Fed and traders are based on the Fed are pricing in a full 0.25 hike to come next month. We had the idea, I'm not going to, I was on that team of a pause was coming. And I still believe it's highly likely, but it all depends on data. The Fed has pointed to, I don't know why this ad is coming up about my gut health, but whatever. They've pointed to that they want to slow down, they want to pause, but it depends on data. Okay. And so when we look at where we are, if we look at what's happening, I believe PCE data is going to be I don't want to say the most important, but it's up there on the peak. It's very, very important. The Fed has said the PCE is the biggest representation of inflation and what's happening with core inflation. Okay. So tomorrow morning, 8:30 Eastern, so 7:30, about an hour before market open, you will get core, you will get durable goods, you will get quite a bit of information right before the market opens. And I believe it's going to be very big, very important. All eyes on there. So before we jump the gun and say we're going full bull, we're blasting through, you need to be keeping an eye on that. I don't know if we can't not be excited. Because if we look at the day, the Nasdaq continues its trend. It continues its move. We continue to move to the upside. On the 4-hour chart, we've made a new high. We haven't been at this 14,000 level on the Nasdaq in over a year. Okay, going all the way back to last April, 2022. Now, before we jump into any more content, I ask you to consider doing two things, liking and subscribing, but only if you get something out of this video. I never want to pressure anyone to do anything. It does support and does help out the channel tremendously. The Discord link is also down below. We will be closing basic access very soon, and also full access will jump up in price, and so will the quarterly, just so you know. So this will be closer to $100 very soon. That will be moving up most likely before the end of June. We're kind of depending on when we're going to do that. So I want to let that be known. But we look at this action. What have we been waiting for? We've had the breakout here on Nasdaq. We pushed up. Now the tricky part here has been ES and Dow. And ES and Dow are still just operating in their range, right? Dow honestly operating worse, just absolutely brutal, continues to make lower lows. Really nasty here. Now, I do want to say this. We have, some earnings coming out today, earnings coming out tomorrow as well, and then a lot coming out next week as well. If data can align with PCE and CPI and along those lines, I believe we'll start to see the Dow maybe getting a little pushback, okay, getting a little bit of love along with a debt ceiling getting resolved, which we had some more good news from the debt ceiling today as well. So those are all things to be keeping an eye on, okay? Those are the things that we love to see right now. Now, I want to run you through some trades that we looked at today. With the news from yesterday about NVIDIA going into today's trading day, all eyes for me were on semiconductors, right? I want to just go through some of my stuff. I posted some of this on Twitter as well. So again, I always recommend people follow on Twitter so you can get all the updates kind of from everywhere. But we went into LRCX right near market open. You mounted highs, you pushed up. Now LRCX, if you look here, I said I'm targeting 600 on LRCX. Well, this thing went bananas. It went up to like 607. So awesome. Played out even better. That was number one. Huge runner, whatever. The next one was AVGO. You mounted highs, almost the same trade here, 699. The target was around 720. And if you were in the live stream today, then you caught it as well for absolutely free. You can see AVGO here in the after hours is actually at 638 and running, but it went all the way to 630 during the trading day because this is a new 52-week high. So my basic trading strategy today was focus on semiconductors because that's where all of the love in the market is going based on the overall growth from NVIDIA's earnings we talked about. That was just purely the focus. Stay kind of away from NVIDIA, but focus on the names that have upside growth with NVIDIA. Now, we look at, moving forward here. What's the next avenue going into this? Now, if the debt ceiling, and they want to solve this debt ceiling before the long weekend, I firmly believe that. And before I go further, I will say Interactive Brokers, where I do all my trading, and I should have went into this a second ago, but this is how I get all my best fills, and this is where I get, and do everything when it comes to my trading. It's also worth mentioning all my trades today. I had a screenshot here from Interactive Brokers. You can actually see it right there. Kind of ugly because I'm so small. I'm so sorry, but it's around $10,000. Anyways, but that's where I do all my trading. Interactive Brokers, check them out. Link is down below. Now, if you look at where we're at, you're in this. We've talked about it. Okay. Going back to 1397, you really can see here. Okay. Let me move myself just a little bit. You can really see this supply zone that we've had established going back to last April. Okay. But the first thing we're looking at is one, we've been bull flagging the past 3-4 days on Nasdaq. Okay. It's very clear. You're breaking up out of it. You look good. We just need to get above, and we need to hold at 14,000 on Nasdaq. With the good debt ceiling report, with PCE, you will continue to move. And I think if PCE goes well, as long as with the debt ceiling, I think you make a push to 14.2, 14.3. My bold prediction. Now, even more attention has to be focused on ES. Okay, more attention has to be shed on this side of the market. We look at where ES is at, and I want to paint a picture for you. If the market has already run this much with only the help of tech, what happens if a debt ceiling gets passed, PCE goes well, the idea of a pause gets pushed back into the market? What do we think happens to equities? I would argue there would be some interesting upside potential. August highs, were well above them now on the Nasdaq, but we're not even close yet on the ES. We still have over 160 points of upside here. So it's hard to not get excited when we look at where we're at. This brings me to my next segment in the video. If you don't know, every day I'm trying to go over good questions from the previous video. I try to go over one good question every single day that gets my interest. And this one's from John Hassel. Now, a few things I want to say. Over the past few weeks, we've been pretty bullish on semiconductors as a whole. Okay? We've been pretty bullish. We really like them. Now, we've gone into detail why, how we see the overall market growing, the demand growing, the room for revenue growing, etc. Now, John had a question here, or more of a statement. Not really a question, but I think we might be disconnected from what's actually happening here. NVIDIA was still down year over year, and this is never to run anyone out. This is have a good conversation between me and you, the viewer, and hopefully shed some light on my opinion and kind of how I'm interpreting things, and then to get your opinion back, on the questions later. NVIDIA is still down year over year in revenue, as well as all other tech has been. A few retailers have pulled through somewhat. Another question we can ask ourselves is, what is going to happen when Q2 earnings tank even more than Q1 has? Sure, NVIDIA has had better Q2 than one company, and they service people who sit at home on their couch eating ho-hos. They don't. That's not what they do. The debt ceiling is a farce. They don't know a deal is getting done. I don't know what else he's saying. Okay, so this is the problem. And again, when we come here, I like to give a non-biased approach. Okay, so I have no money in NVIDIA right now. Okay, it's made us a lot of money. What's happened with NVIDIA, but to say right now, I have no money in it. But when we look at what's happening with NVIDIA, what are they doing? Their guidance for the next quarter, what was it? It was $7 billion. They raised said guidance from $7 billion to $11 billion. Now, I want you to also know, $11 billion would be more than $2 billion more than they've ever done in a quarter. Just to let you know. So what is NVIDIA doing? They're showing that they're raising revenue growth by 50%. Okay. They're doing this during a recession. So during a recession, NVIDIA has figured out how to pivot their business from primarily in the gaming sector to go into services, data centers, etc. Just growing. So you say they're couch eating ho-hos. No, actually not. All the tech and all the AI that we're going to be using, right? is going to be done through their chips, right? So everyone that's using AI or doing anything anymore in which they've proven and they've shown the data and the numbers and why they believe more growth will come from that and where it will stem from, right? That's where this is coming from. So again, we have to understand we cannot be biased with our opinion here. We can't just assume things. That's why when you look at their balance sheet, that's why when you look at their earnings they just did. They showed a lot of growth, specifically in the data centers. So when we look at this, we have to be able to say, maybe they shouldn't run 30%. But is there something happening here that a company is able to show so much growth and such a good outlook despite us being in a recession, despite companies supposedly taking such a hit, despite other companies spending less money than ever based on where interest rates are? Because we have to think, what's going to happen when, the market, goes back to normal and interest rates are low and companies are available to spend money at will once again and again and again? Do you think NVIDIA will slow down, or do you think they'll start even growing faster? That's what you kind of have to think here. And that's my opinion on this. So if you have questions, I would love to comment and answer those down below. Now I want to go over VIX, DXY, bonds, etc. here real quick. Now, first up, VIX. What have we been looking at? This is VIX on the weekly. VIX, what are we paying attention to? $20, okay? So we look at VIX, and if we see how we've been moving, I believe as long as we're below $20, there's not extreme reason for cost or concern, okay? Obviously, the lower we go on VIX, the happier we are, especially if you're bullish or looking to trade upside. That's why if you get back into the $17, $16 region, what happened back here in 2020, 2021? You push to all-time highs. So we have to be able to look at that viewpoint of it, okay? And that's where we're at here. If we get back above 20, I'd be a little bit concerned. But again, this is why I'm not YOLOing or really pushing heavy into positions yet or holding anything overnight, is because we're still only at 19. We're close to 20. We're very close to 20 with PCE, with the debt ceiling. So no reason to start going crazy just yet. Next up, the DXY. Now, a lot of people are going to have a lot of questions regarding the DXY and what's happening here. The DXY, we've seen a few areas that we've been kind of trading in, and yeah. So DXY, we looked pretty bad, but we kind of ultimately have formed a double bottom and kind of been pushing up from here. So far, so good. The DXY is performing well on the expectations that perhaps the debt ceiling does get raised. Okay, that's the expectation here. Again, I think there's a little bit of a disconnect between DXY and what's happening with the market. I will say that because the DXY got hammered just so aggressively from highs, and there was a lot of manipulation there. So fair value on the dollar definitely is not. It's not down here in my opinion. And we had a lot of manipulation happening here. So again, DXY, it's not the biggest indicator on the market right now for me. That's just my personal opinion. Really quick as well, I do want to pull up Bookmap so you can also see. Again, we've been highlighting, and this is the heat map on the overall market for ES and the S&P 500. So we can also see what's happening with volume. Now, there's a few things that we need to look at here. So you didn't really get any on the icebergs, the blue one, hidden orders, big buyers coming into the market. We didn't get any big buyers essentially until, 1 o'clock in the afternoon. You didn't. It was a lot of heavy. There were some big sellers trying to step in, 3,000 lots, here at 10 a.m. You had another one almost at lunchtime. But despite big sellers trying to step in, you saw the CVD, which gives you a broad viewpoint of volume in the market. What do we see from that? Continued growth to the upside. So despite there being a large seller trying to step in, establish a position, you continue to push up. So the market just would not let you go down. And then obviously throughout the end of the day, you saw more and more big orders come back into the market. Okay, we saw this again. We saw this yesterday. So food for thought. Interesting what we're seeing here. I don't think it gives you a clear. Again, I want to say right now, PCE tomorrow is extremely, extremely big. And I don't think you can judge anything until you really get that data. I do like the volume that's coming in here. It does side with more upside potentially. But again, I think jumping the gun is dangerous here. Also going into what is happening really quick with bonds very quickly. 2-year, we're seeing it climb more. Again, this is the concerning thing for me. Okay, this is the concerning thing, is you are pricing in, like we went over, you are pricing in more rate hikes. Okay, you are. With this happening, the 2-year continues to climb, the 5-year climbing, 10-year climbing, 30-year climbing. Now we want the 30-year to climb relative to the others, but you're not. So you're definitely getting outpaced here. Your inversion of the 10 and 30-year is almost back to 96%. This is definitely concerning. So when I look at the market, there are some big indicators that we've used over the past year that are extremely concerning. But I will say, I do believe we start to see a move with these bonds and yields after PCE as well. So if we see PCE come out and we see the debt ceiling get resolved and yields continue to ramp up, there's a hidden issue there. But if we see them start to cool and react to that data, then we know that maybe the markets were just pricing on what was happening with rates and what's happening with the data we just covered. So I want that to be really clear as well. So the final things we're going to go over here are just stocks I'm liking, stocks I'm looking at going forward. Okay. Now, a few things. I will say a lot of people have been asking me about QCOM, my opinion here. Again, QCOM is a long-term play for me. I bought stock. When I buy stock, I buy it. I don't think about it. It's stock. It's there. The end. QCOM, just so you know, if you go to the weekly chart, you are on top of your .com highs, just so you know. Your .com high was about like 97, 98. You can go back to 2000 on the chart. That's where you're at. So I just like QCOM where you're at. And you're finding some buyers down here. It just made sense for me. And I think it's a value play when we look at what's happening with semiconductors. LRCX, I mentioned this inverse head and shoulders a week ago. You continue to push up. Short-term target is still 620, 621. Great candle here on the day and the weekly. I think you have more upside here. I'd be looking out for these guys to test that range into tomorrow. AVGO, I think you're done with this one. You can't really trade it. I'm going to tell you right now. If you look at the weekly, you are at all-time highs and you're in price discovery. You had your opportunity today once you retested basically 700 and then you broke back to the upside. But after that, it was, you couldn't touch it. Moving a little bit further, I am a big fan of where we're at on Microsoft. Again, though, I'm going to tell you right now, if you're not in the live streams, you're not, watching daily videos and you're not on Twitter, you're missing a lot of opportunities. I'm going to tell you right now. Microsoft, you're trading this maybe up to 328, 327.5. So you have about $2 of upside, but that's basically it there. Gonna tell you right now. Going a little bit deeper, my favorite play right now is what's happening here on Amazon. If you go to Amazon on something like the daily, very, very impressive looking chart. Okay. I like where you're at. I like how you're moving. You can see also too coming in. I want to find where this exact level is. I just don't have it marked out right now on my chart. I'll have something posted on Twitter. I think it's about 114.7 roughly, but really it's this 114 level there that you've already bounced off of. You can see you're bouncing, finding support off that level. This goes all the way back into February highs. Okay. I love Amazon. I think they're getting hit from what happened with snow and cloud computing, but I think Amazon has a lot of opportunity, long-term, shorter term as well. If you get good data, I think Amazon has room to rip past 120 personally. If you remember, we were calling it down here at 109. This might be your second opportunity. Just know that. Keep them on your radar. Now, the next thing I want to cover is going to be AMD. I want to mention something really quickly here. A lot of this stuff we mention all the time. I feel like I mention the same things over and over. So on April 30th at basically noon, I said AMD to 100, a quick thread. At the time, AMD was at $89. Okay. I also gave the next target of 120, 121. You can also go to our Instagram and we also posted it right here, all in, just so you know. And I said 120 in that video as well. Later on, AMD obviously runs to 120. So I just want to say, I recommend you guys pay attention here in the video, but do your own research. I guarantee the success will follow if you do your own research and put in the work. I just want to highlight just a few big winners and traders over the past few days in Discord. Shout out for real, these guys. They're absolutely killing it. For Mr. M, $18,000. Massive winner today. One of his biggest, I think it's his biggest win ever, right? These guys are going ballistic. And I'm not going to say it's just them being in Discord. It's because they're putting in the work. I need y'all to understand that. It's because they are putting in the work. When you put in the work, you show up, I promise the results will come. The results will follow. So if you get anything from this out of this video, think about that. I'll see you tomorrow. Have a good one, traders.